Well, good morning, guys. Three bold takes yet again, and we're switching it up from the schedule look at, or I guess look forwards per se, or prediction previews, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to take a look at the win totals for the four Power Five conferences. We're starting this one off with the ACC. Obviously, there's a graphic on your screen. This is from On Three Sports. Jesse, in particular, from On Three Sports. And we're not really going to spend too much time on this particular graphic. It's just an easy graphic to show you the over-unders for each particular conference. So with that in mind, as you can see, it's broken down into too high, just right, or too low. Now, personally, when I look at this, I think there's a lot of good in what Vegas does with their over-unders. I don't know about you guys, but typically Vegas is very good about making over-unders. There's a reason why they're building bigger casinos and not smaller ones in Vegas, and it's because they make a lot of money, right? So, for me, I look at somebody like Virginia Tech at 8.5. Now, 2 years ago, they went 3-8. Last year, they went 7-6. Can they sustain that? Personally, I think I would have to have more than just 1 year of, a bowl-eligible team, 7-6. Before I could go out on the limb and say that. Now, personally, I think they will, but given Virginia Tech and given kind of the history of the past couple of years, I don't really know. I don't know.
Like, are you saying they're not going to hit 8.5? Like, are you saying it's like a too high of a number?
I think it's too high for a betting number. Okay, let me just put it like this. That's one I would stay away from. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole if I was a betting man. I wouldn't do it.
So, okay, I see. My concern, or where I disagree with that, is there is a lot of like talent and hype behind Virginia Tech, where I think they could get to that 8.5 or that 9-win total and hit the over. I think 8-9 wins is about where they should fall. The one that I see that I'm willing to go bet on tonight is SMU at 7.5. That's the one I think is too high. Go back and look at all the like schools who come from like the G5 level up to the P4, and I know the ACC is a joke of a P4 conference, but it still has some higher end teams who've been making more money than SMU for a while. That 7.5 total is going to be hard to hit, especially when you think about them geographically in their conference. Every game they play on the road, they're either going to have to travel from Texas out to the Atlantic coast or Texas out to the Pacific coast, which is a long travel no matter who they go play. Like, I think their closest conference game is probably Louisville or Georgia Tech. That's not close to Dallas, Texas. So that's the one that I think if you're like licking your chop, wanting to steal a bet that's too high of a total. 7.5. I mean, that's I think way too.
I think 2 points I got is the SMU one. Maybe it's because they look at it and how their offense dominated. Maybe they think that'll be able to translate very quickly in the ACC. Because I have belief in SMU. I definitely saw that too, though. It said 7.5 in your first year in a new Power 4 conference. Thought that was a little wild. Because SMU is not a nationally 9-3, 8-4 team. So first year ACC, you're going to get 8 wins, or there's a chance for you to get 8 wins. That is going to be tough. The Virginia Tech one, though, I hate the slander because they're walking into Death Valley at Clemson 9-0. That's at home. My bad, not at Death Valley, but at home against Clemson, 9-0. So if you are a betting man, take that one. Go ahead and write it in. Hey, $100, 9-0.
You got them 9. Don't they play Miami before Clemson?
Yeah, it's an easy win.
Okay.
Yeah, easy win.
Okay, all right. What about the Pac-12 teams coming into the ACC? Like, what about their numbers? So Cal at 6.5, Stanford at 3.5. Like, what are we looking at there?
That hits on my one that I think is too low. Is Stanford at 3.5? Now, hear me out. I know Stanford's terrible. They're not good.
Yeah.
All you got to do is get 4 wins to hit the over on a 3.5. All right. So you look at the fact that half their conference games, even if they're not that good, these teams are having to travel from one side of the country to the other. And it's not like the ACC is like super deep with talent. So are you telling me that it's inconceivable that they got a random Thursday night when Boston College travels from Massachusetts all the way out to California that they might slip up and lose that game when they might be better than Stanford. I don't think that's crazy. So I think putting Stanford at 3.5, I would have rather seen them at more of a 5.5. That's what I would have struggled to bet on.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty easy money that they're going to get 4 wins.
So I'm going to Stanford's schedule is TCU, Cal Poly, win, Syracuse, Clemson, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, SMU, Wake Forest, NCSU, North Carolina State, Louisville, Cal, and then San Jose State.
Oh, so they draw like all the best teams of the ACC.
Like if you start out 2-0, TCU, Cal Poly, and then end the year 2-0 against Cal and San Jose State, there's your 4. But
you got the Wake Forest. You got the Wake Forest game. Are they going to Wake Forest, or is that coming out Stanford?
At home, you play at.
Okay, so that I think they'll win that.
Yeah, at Clemson, at Notre Dame, at North Carolina State are all the big ones.
Oh, those are all lost. Those are all
tough. I thought the Cal one was too high as well. I thought Cal was. I'm not a huge believer in Cal. I think they've been 3-7 the last few years or whatnot. 3-10.
Yeah. They've been historically bad for a long time. Cal has, but I do want to call attention to this graphic though. They have Georgia Tech in the too high category. I don't like that. Like, I think it's just right for them. Like, I think they're going to be, they're a fringe bowl team to me. Yeah. Like, I think that's the perfect number for Georgia Tech. And that's why Vegas, man, God, they're so good at what they do. Like, I'm looking at all of these. It's like, man, what is one that I would hammer home? And honestly, besides SMU and really Stanford, there's not really one I would hammer home. Like Florida State, 9.5, they have them in the too low category. But listen, I was going
to bring that up. They have them in the too low, and I don't think it is. Because you look at the other teams in the conference, Miami and Clemson are the only other 2 at 9.5. And I don't think that Florida State should be just a drastic favorite. They should be the favorite out of the 3. But I don't think that there's enough to say that there should be a differential up to 10.5. Like when you think about it in the SEC terms, where the 2 10.5 teams are Texas and Georgia, who are clear favorites in the conference, and you got a bunch of those 9.5 win teams underneath them. So I don't think there's a big gap there. So I don't get why they have the 9.5. That's too low.
Also, NC State at the too low too. Like they're basically saying that they should be at 9.5 up there with Clemson.
I don't think so.
I actually agree with that. NC State always pulls out a 9-win season. They do. And honestly, with the Florida State one, I do think that's a little too high. I think they should be at 8.5.
Whoa!
Everything that they lost.
Wait, I mean, you think North Carolina State and Clemson and Miami should all be ahead of Florida State in betting odds over
under? Not Clemson, but honestly, if you put them,
Miami and North Carolina State.
North Carolina State, I thought that they were going to absolutely tank after they lost the kid that went to Kentucky. My goodness. 15. I forget his name. O'Leary. Yeah, Devin O'Leary. I thought he was like, they were going to absolutely tank. They still ended up winning 9 games. And I was like, my goodness. So I think, if anything, it should be Clemson, Miami, NC State, Florida State, all at 8.5, even.
Here's my thing. When was the last? This is my problem with betting on Miami or North Carolina, and this is slightly off topic. Betting either of them to win the ACC. How long? Who was the last team to win the ACC that wasn't Clemson or Florida State? Because it has to predate. It has to at least be 2012.
Oh, are you sure about that?
Unless it was 2014, because 2015
Louisville.
No, Lamar Jackson and Louisville never won the conference because Clemson won it every time.
Florida State, Clemson. In 2021, the Pittsburgh Panthers.
Oh, I forgot about Pitt and
Pitt.
And then 2020 to 2015 is Clemson. 2014 to 2012 is Florida State. Clemson again, and then 2010 is Virginia Tech.
So since 2010, Virginia Tech won it in 2010, and Pitt won it in the COVID season.
Mm-hmm. Pitt against Wake Forest.
Wake Forest, I remember that. That was wild. We were covering that game.
Mm-hmm. And then 2020, your actual COVID was Clemson and Notre Dame.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
Yep. So
I don't know, man. I always love talking betting odds because it can go either way, whether it's too high, too low, and there's only normally probably one or two in a conference that I would ever feel comfortable betting. Yeah. So, I love these kind of conversations, but I'm really excited to get to the other conferences, to be honest with you. And that's what we're doing next. So that's the end of the ACC one. So guys, stay tuned for the SEC, Big 12, and Big 10 videos coming soon. It's been Freddie, Chase, and Quinn. We are 3 Bold Takes, and we are out.